gorgeous faces. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you tonight. I'm so in the mood for a cup of Joe call, and we have a knockout guest for you guys. Okay, Tom, you made it. Okay, great. I can only see a few of you, but welcome to you all. You guys know the rules. Even though Jessie has been known to cast people at one time or another, this is not one of those calls where we're asking her grown-up publisher questions about how do I make a good impression. This is one of the normal calls where we ask her questions that make her squirm, and in the nicest way. I don't want to scare her before the call has started. And please get your quirky questions ready for the end of the call. I promise I won't forget you this time. Hold on. And remember, if you have a question, type in big caps question before it, or I will assume you're chatting amongst yourselves and you might get missed. So saying that, I did cheat and have a tiny chat with Jessie before the call started, because I was saying that I'm a big fan of her Facebook, Jessie. It's a rare person that can mix authenticity with professionalism and I struggle with it sometimes, erring on the side of possibly too much authenticity and boundaries and everything. So let's jump right in. Jessie, 10-year-old Jessie, what did you want to be? What did you want to do when you grew up? What were you a quiet child? Tell us about 10-year-old Jessie.
Well, so I'm an only child, and I've come to learn that is sort of unusual. Everybody else in my life is a sibling. Even my daughter is a half sister. So I grew up in Southern California in a little town called Ojai, a few hours north of LA. And I grew up in the outskirts of Ojai, about 10 miles up the mountain. And
we're sisters. Fresno.
Oh, nice. Yeah. This is further south.
Ojai's cooler. Ojai's a little cooler.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat spot. But you know, growing up out in the boonies, as it were, I was alone a lot. And my mom's an English teacher. And so I've kind of always been a reader. I would wake up in the morning and during the summers and like pack a backpack and go up to the creek and sit by the creek and read all day. And I think that I never quite knew what I wanted to do growing up. In high school and college, I did stage management. I was really involved in theater. I was really involved in music, but I was never good enough at either of those things to pursue a career in it. I was like, I can't be a professional stage manager. I'm going to go crazy if I do that. And but I went to college here in Southern Oregon for children's literature, because it's always been one of my, the things that I have found most formative in life is what you read as a kid. And
so you're following your passions. You're one of those people that's like Barbara Sher. There's a word for it. People that do a lot of things. They jump from one thing to another for the pure love of it. Is that how you feel?
Yeah. And I mean, I've been with Blackstone, for my entire audiobook career, I've been with Blackstone. I started with them in 2008. And it was just a job at the time. I didn't know a ton about audiobooks. I listened to them now and then. But when I've worked in a couple of different positions at Blackstone, but when I created, this is my boss, Brian Barney, and I, we sort of created this position out of nothing. And it's grown in the past 10 years that I've been working with him a lot. And I was talking with my mom, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And I was like, I think the coolest part about my job is that it's exactly what I've always wanted to do. It's really dynamic. I get to read all the time. I get the stage management aspect of it by producing and coordinating all of the different pieces that I work on. And it's this really nice balance of sociability with narrators and other producers, but not having to do customer care voice. So yeah, when I was a kid, I always knew that I wanted to do stuff with books, but I was like, I don't want to be an editor. That sounds boring. And I don't think I'm good enough to be a writer. So finding this I sort of manifested this. I think little Jessie made that happen.
I was just thinking about this today, and it's been a big thing with me. the difference between people that are intrinsically motivated and extrinsically motivated. And I have a couple of friends, and my father was one of those people as well, that just, they loved something, so they did it. They loved something, so they followed this passion, they followed that passion, which I consider intrinsically motivated. You're following something because you've got an internal feeling that you love it. You just, I know what I like, and I know who I am, and maybe eventually it'll all come out. And I'm trying to do that more, because whereas they're extrinsically motivated people, where they're like, I'm writing down all my goals and I'm going to fit this, and I'm going to make myself into the person that's this. You made your reality fit what you wanted to do, didn't you? Without struggle.
Yeah, I don't really know if I didn't set out to do it, but it certainly, like, my life sort of formed itself around what I've put out.
That's the point.
One of my favorite sayings is something that I stole from my dad. He always says that luck is the residue of design. And I have been extraordinarily lucky in my life, but also a lot of that has to do with the deliberate choices that I make about what I do and what I post and the actions that I take, just because I don't ever want to be put in an awkward position based on like a choice that I made, right? So I've been lucky, but that's because I've worked hard at establishing a trajectory, I think.
Do you think it's instinct? Do you think it's having a strong inner, maybe it's being an only child?
I found a lot of my quirkiness comes from that particular thing. But
were you close to your mother?
Yeah. I mean, my family is very close, and I think because I was sort of forced to be independent pretty young, just because my parents both worked, and I had to, get myself from A to B from, the time I was in first grade. And I can see the cause and effect patterns of life pretty clearly. And I just try not to make stupid mistakes, but they happen because I'm a human who makes stupid mistakes sometimes.
Yeah. But if you're coming from a strong core, I'm not saying I have this or do this, I'm saying I'm practicing it. But if you're coming from a strong core, it's like, when you listen to an audiobook, right? If a narrator's, you might not agree with me, but I think if a narrator is good, they learn the technique when they're young narrators, when they first start. And I mean young, not as in ageism, guys. I mean young as in you're a newbie, but I hate that word. They learn the technique, they put the hours in, they develop the craft. Then their voice has a fluke or a break. That's personality.
Right.
Because they're strong, they're good, they're strong. They can afford to show the broken bits.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're strong, you knew you loved books, you knew you followed the things you loved, you can afford to show the vulnerable bits.
Right. Yeah, it creates kind of a foundation for confidence, which is something that I'm working on, because I am a big imposter. It's okay. I'm not an imposter anymore. I'm a con artist. That's what I'm going with. I've decided that I'm conning everybody into knowing what I'm doing.
I like that. Well, what do they say? Fake it till you make it. So I love that. I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking, because how much do we chase? I mean, writers do it. I see them on Twitter freaking out about reviews. Narrators sometimes do it, but they don't do it around me because they know they're going to get told off. But they freak out because one stranger that's had a bad day, and he's sitting there, Jimmy, in like some weird town ordering his pizza, and he's going to write something mean about you. And like literally people get shaken to the core. Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, we live in this society that perfection is demanded. And if you're not perfect for any reason, you get dinged. And it's, we all live in this very highly visible social media world. It's hard to leaning out of perfectionism, and having the compassion for self, just to understand that so long as you're making the right choice, accidents are still going to happen, but it's not going to be it's not a moral failing, And I think that a lot of what we have to experience and move through is what is and isn't moral failings, and being human isn't a moral failing across the board, you know.
And it's attractive. It's the difference between Marilyn Monroe in her dress and I can't, is it Kardashian that wore her dress? She did everything perfect. I think it was I think it's Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure. But recently she wore the Marilyn Monroe dress and lost a lot of weight and did everything perfect and had like millions of dollars to like make everything perfect. That's not why we loved Marilyn. Right. We loved Marilyn because of like the look in her eyes and the crack in her face and the person trying to come out. That's why we loved Marilyn.
Yeah, it's what's the Japanese term? The kintsukuroi pottery. It's pottery that's broken and then put back together with gold and is more beautiful for having been broken. And I think that in this industry particularly, some of the most successful voices come from the places of the greatest vulnerability in storytelling. And I think that's a pretty common theme, just like in life. You succeed when you stop trying to be perfect. I mean, it's worked for me, I guess.
And it changes everything. I had okay, my motive was not pure because like 10 years ago or something, I used to think I was beautiful. Like I would like gain and lose weight and I had problems with that, but here I go again, bringing it up. But I used to think I was beautiful despite that. My parents raised me saying, you're a beautiful person. And then I got like really bad bags under my eyes, you know, during like a bad part of my life. And I had a guy, an actor friend, meet me for lunch. And he goes, oh, well, you're no older than, and he guessed my age. And it was like right around a big birthday, but he guessed it 10 years older.
Oh.
And I showed up at a Harley Street surgeon the next day and said, oh my God, can you help me? What about the bags under my eyes? And she guessed my age 10 years older. And then she said I had like thyroid eye disease, it turned out. And she took, because it was like really bad bags you get with thyroid eye disease. I didn't know what it was, right? And I thought, well, the insurance is paying for it. I thought, well, free, I'll look young forever. It changed the shape of my entire face. It changed my eyes. And it was just this, that's it. And so now I see why people, they fix this to make it look like this. And you're chasing something. So the presumption is that there's something that's broken.
Yeah. I feel my best friend and I have been joking recently about how glad we are that we're finally growing into our grouchy old lady personas, because we've been this way our entire lives. I've always been uncomfortable in my body. I live in a bigger body. I always have, even when that body has been bigger or smaller than it is now. And just in the past year or so, I've given up a lot of bad self-talk about what makes me a valuable human, and my body type is the least valuable thing about me, and it's hard to unlearn decades of social wiring to want to be thin, to want to be perfect, to want to be poised and elegant and classy, and that none of those things are me. I'm a giant mess all the time, but I like that mess that I am because it's colorful and silly and interesting, and it's not sterile. And one of the things, when I look at, movie stars who have had work done or whatever, I mean, I don't judge them because they're doing whatever makes them feel best, and I hope that they're doing it for themselves.
And I understand them, because that's me, a week ago or something,
Yeah, but I think there's so much value in aging. There's, there's my mom, her face is wrinkled, but it's wrinkled with just laugh lines from decades of a life well lived, and there's just nothing wrong with that. And my life really changed in the last year. I mean, my life sort of at myself changed when I just kind of stopped caring about I don't have to put on an outfit to go to the grocery store. Nobody cares that your socks can be seen above your shoes. Nobody cares that you're not wearing a bra, Jesse. Nobody cares.
Especially now.
Looking at you and thinking that it's not worth my thought. You know, it's not worth the mental energy that I was carrying for everybody that might perceive me, you know? So.
And because they're thinking about themselves as well. And especially after the last 3 years, half of us haven't been out of our pajamas until recently.
Right.
And
it's the whole weird thing putting on pants again.
Exactly. I have no intention. But the other thing is that I was thinking a lot about this because they're giving us other paths of ways to age, right? Because Gen X is having to face it now, and we're like, still think we're like really cool and young, but they're giving us paths. Like, it's okay, you can age, but the choices they're giving us are like maybe a little bit more attractive. But no, I don't want to be happy in what I'm left with. I want to be blindingly, gorgeously, shockingly, eccentrically, you know, I want to be Iris Apfel with the earrings, and you know what I mean? It's you want everything. You don't want just less. It's that thing of like, once you have kids and everything, the life is theirs. Now step out of the spotlight. You want everything. I think all of us, we're not doing anyone any favor. And I think you're obviously, I mean, not talk about kids, but like, that's one happy kid. That's one happy
pretty
kid.
Great. I'm pretty lucky. Yeah, we have a pretty, we have an interesting little family dynamic. You know, I got together with her dad when his daughter was 2. So I've known Ellie, my daughter's older sister, for nearly her whole life. She's a 16-year-old teenager and just boggling. She's like a giant human now. It's very strange, but and you know, we trade off weeks. So Willa gets a week with her sister and at her other parents' house, and a week on with you know, my husband and I. And she's navigated that sort of back and forth lifestyle since I think we split houses when she was 2, just before she was 2. And she's just this amazing little human, full of like, she likes her own, you know, me being such a reader, I tried really hard to get, I was like, my daughter is going to be a reader. She will read all the books, and that's all she's ever going to want to do. No, she doesn't. All she wants to do is read graphic novels, and she's always like, I'm sorry, it's a graphic novel. I'm like, no sorries, do it. And she is an amazing artist. She's just a joy. And but she's also, you know, it's funny being a mom in this generation that's very different than the way that I was parented, just because she's being exposed to so much more than I was, and it's creating a lot of opportunity for very frank conversations about life and sexuality and relationships and what's going on in the world and how it relates to what's going on with us. And she's just curious and a joy to be around. I'm just like, I'm not sure what I did here, but it's working and it's cool and she's amazing. But she's her own, you know, she's totally, I can't take much credit. She's just kind of always been her own little person.
But there's seeing, because I'm a very happily, I don't have kids, but people don't get that wrong. I admire them. I respect them. I think they're amazing. You know, they're small human beings. They're fabulous. Just not a thing I've done. But when I see kids like that with a fire in their eyes, and I see a lot of them, a lot of kids that age now are like, they're smart as a whip, and they know. You feel like things could be okay if that's what's coming and who's taking over. If we can just not screw it up until they get their chance. And you know, we don't put a lot of pressure on grades. She's got great grades, but she knows that she's a little bit of an anxious beast, my daughter, and so she'll come home and be like, I failed a math test. I'm like, well, did you try? And she's like, yeah, I tried really hard. I just didn't understand what was happening. I was like, well, we can fix that, but like,
don't stress yourself into a panic about grades that don't really matter. So long as you're trying, that's all I care about. And it helps her do better when she realizes that she's not in trouble for anything. She's not in trouble for being a human. It's fun. It's fun. Parenting is fun these days, and it's fun watching her kind of she's gonna be 12 next month. So it's a crazy world.
Okay, so what about you? So I tried yet again and failed yet again on my perfect life schedule that I've been trying to get down since I was 8. How are you at parenting yourself? How do you deal with schedules? Do you beat yourself up? What's your internal dialogue when it comes to making yourself work?
I am a bit of a workaholic, and I'm very good at scheduling. I have so many balls in the air at any given time that I kind of have to be neurotic about my calendar and making sure that everything's put in there. Otherwise, I will just not show up for the drinks that I was supposed to meet my friend with, which happened last week. And she called me, she's like, were we not getting wine today? And I was like, oh shit. But I do struggle. I struggle a lot with remembering to eat throughout the day. And remembering to get up and take breaks. I get incredible tunnel vision with work, which is great because I always have a huge volume of work to get through, but it's detrimental because like I'll come up for air and I'll be like, it is 5 o'clock and I have had 6 cups of coffee. Fantastic.
That's what I do. And so do you not beat yourself up? I tried to take a walk. Really? A 20-minute walk? Seriously? Ruined my whole day. How do you do all that self-care crap?
I have found that if I'm struggling really hard with like taking care of myself and my needs, I start just being a character that's really good at it. I put on my shoes and say, I'm going to go pretend to be a mom who knows how to walk her ass across up to the school and go for a walk, or I'm going to pretend to be the person that can go do all the grocery shopping, because that person, I can create a whole character and then just be that character, and it's not really me doing it.
I love that. But that's the best thing I've ever heard. I love that.
I call it cosplaying as a human.
I love that. I could pretend to be someone that does yoga and wakes up early and takes a walk and washes my face. It doesn't
always work, but it does help sometimes get out of that mental rut.
Do you do cosplay?
I do. I used to. I don't do it as much as I used to. I used to perform at the Portland Pirate Festival up in Portland, Oregon.
Can you explain what it is to me? Because I know people dress up in costumes. I don't really understand what they mean by perform.
Cosplaying is it's kind of more of a deep dive into a specific character where you get very elaborate with the costuming. What I did specifically up in Portland was there was like historical reenactments on the water, and they had a big masted ship and they hired actors to come and be pirates, and it's sort of like a Renaissance fair but pirates instead. And so I dressed up and did like a week-long, I had a bunch of different costumes and would interact with the tourists that were there pretending to be a pirate and making them uncomfortable, which was funny. And then we did like ship to shore battles with special effects and stuff.
Oh, I thought it was something to do with Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's some crossover between cosplayers and Dungeons and Dragons. My husband's a Dungeons and Dragons player, but they don't dress up for it. They just hang out.
Is that on the computer? Does he do it on the computer? Oh my God, I sound like my grandmother.
No, he has a little group. He has a group of a couple of his friends that he plays with. They meet at somebody's house once a week, and they've got like some tabletop grid, like a big grid that for all the spaces to move. And I think they've got like little figurines for as they go through the dungeons or whatever they're working on.
And so they just hang out? They just hang out?
Yeah. I mean, one of them designs a campaign, which is, they write a story basically, or there's a lot of like pre-written ones, and the dungeon master knows the whole story, and the other players interact with the story, but they get to make up what they're doing through it. And the dungeon master kind of has to control the story flow while incorporating what their actions are into the narrative that is established.
It'd be good training to be a narrator. So can I ask where you met your husband? You don't have to say, I know that's personal. Did you work together?
Yeah, he was in the engineering department he kind of got hired as a temp to do a bunch of like audio editing or audio reviewing. I don't really remember. It was a million years ago. And I just started working with Brian in the studio department. And back in my smoking days, we were out having a cigarette break. And it was right around my birthday. And there's like a group of us standing out there having a cigarette, and I didn't realize Brian was standing there. And my boss's name is Brian and my husband's name is Brian. So husband Brian was standing there, and I was like, oh, everybody, I'm having a party for my birthday. And everybody's like, oh, cool. And then Brian's kind of standing there, just not saying anything. It's like, oh, buddy, if you want to come, you should.
Had you already clocked him? Were you already like thinking, can you tell I'm doing a romance right now? Oh. No, were you already thinking he was cute?
I mean, I thought he was like cute, but I also didn't think that he was interested in me. And I was just sort of like inviting him to be polite. And I was very surprised when he showed up. And we sort of hit it off that night and have been together ever since.
That's very romantic. I'm always really intrigued by people that are like meet people at work. I think that's so romantic.
Yeah, so we got together, and then he actually stopped working there about 3 weeks after we got together, because the position that he was for was just temporary. So he didn't work there for very long while we were together, but
just long enough to meet. Fate. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do have one question sure. That's timely, so I don't want to get too far in. Kim wants to know, did you wear an eye patch? Not when you met Brian, when you were on.
No, not when I was the pirate. No, I had both eyeballs.
Okay, so we've hit romance, we've hit scheduling, so tell me what like your biggest struggle has been. Like, what if you could like go back and teach your younger self something now, or help yourself with something, what would you do?
Confidence is a big thing. I have let my lack of self-confidence drive a lot of my existence. And the position at Blackstone has actually helped give me a lot of confidence, because through the years I've proposed ideas and everybody's like, oh, that's a really good idea. So I'm really learning how to trust my instinct and not just with my work, but across the board, having that internal trust of listening to my gut and listening to my intuition and listening to what I know is right and right for me or right for my family, and not apologizing for it. My entire life, I felt like I lived my life as an apology. Like, I'm sorry I exist. I'm so sorry for being in your way.
I did that too. Or overcompensating, having to be funnier and more to pay the penalty for not being as good as, for whatever reason, whoever else was in the room.
Yeah.
And overdo it. Everything's
and then the very next day, inevitably, I would go to some social event and I would be nervous because of who I am as a person, and then I'd act kind of bigger than I usually am, like you said, to compensate. And then the next day, I'd be like, oh my God, what did I say? Everybody thinks I'm an idiot.
I do that after these calls.
Nobody was thinking about me.
I think Lisa's on this call. Inevitably, Lisa Ware or Anna Clements will get a message from me during a call when it's somebody that like I hadn't met before, and like I'm relaxed around, and then I get worried, and they will get a message after the call late at night going, oh my God, did I talk too much? Did I say anything horrible? But I had a thought about that when you're saying about confidence in your job. I think there's an aspect to it that you might not realize, that because I mean, we all know that the best way to feel better is to help other people, right? And because when it comes to confidence, and I can think of one instance, I have a hit and miss relationship with sending letters to publishers. Whereas I learned all the rules and ticked all the boxes and sent the way other people send them, because I'm very aware that I'm different than most people and I'm not part of the herd. So I did all the trying to do the letters the way you're supposed to. And one of the pieces of advice was send the letter and then 4 days later send another letter, right? And then on APAC, one of the publishers specifically said, oh my God, I even had narrators do this. Not a good first impression. So you learn, you go through, I think everyone goes through that, learning what to do in the beginning. That was years ago. But now I vary. I'll go like, you know, every 3 months, I'll send some like proper etiquette letters, the way my friends would sound. And then I'll send another letter where I suddenly go off the rail and, oh my God, the weather's wonderful. But I was having a very bad, I'm a workaholic. Like I have to be overbooked and then I kill myself to get, I do meet my deadlines, but my health doesn't like me. And I had one time when I wasn't booked enough to make my nervous heart feel good. So I sent a couple of emails, like, but I think I was like on my second email and you were like my first, and you responded and said, and it was the way you said it. I mean, you get 8,000 emails a day. I know you do. And you responded, I was just going to reach out to you for this book. It wasn't a book I don't think I was any good at it. I mean, in the nicest way. But the fact that you said just the right thing, you gave me that boost of confidence. And at a time that like, it was a rough day. It was a bad day. And the way you said, it made me feel, being the recipient of that email, that, oh, it really is a matter of when the right book comes along, they'll reach out. It isn't that like I'm a flawed, because we all go through it. I don't care who you are. I'm telling everyone all the time, your dry spell is everyone's dry spell. It's a thing. It's part of the business. It's different for everyone. We all have our certain amount we have to be booked for, or we start getting worried because we're freelancers. And you that day gave me, so I think that the amount of people you respond to, because of the way you're responding, you're making people feel like humans and you're giving us all confidence. And that has got to be making you stronger confidence-wise.
Well, I do, you know, I try to be as Jessie as I can be. And part of that is a deep discomfort to not responding to emails that I get.
You get a lot. Do you respond to all of them? You can't respond to all of them.
No, I respond to as many as I can when I can. Sometimes there'll be a day where for whatever reason I get, 10, 15, hey, just checking in. I've got this time in my schedule sorts of emails. And it happens to coincide with the day that I am just reading manuscripts or doing some, paperwork or whatever. So I have the time to respond. And if I don't respond to somebody's first email, I try to respond to their second one, because I know that it is discouraging to just have these things going into a void. And I know that a lot of producers, for whatever reasons they have, they don't always respond. And I always want to be viewed as a human and not an inbox. So I try to treat everybody that same way.
Yeah, we've got in the chat, Jessie equals real human. And I'm going to send you the chat afterwards, so don't worry, you will see the chat afterwards. But that strength, and what I was saying about going to Lisa and Anna after the calls, I'm still going to rock up on the next call and say inappropriately way too many honest things, because in the beginning people would always come back to me, oh my God, are you okay? But now they know. I want them to know. I want them to know Daniela has dry spells. We all have dry spells. We all freak out. We all send messages to Jessie and then sit and go, everyone hates me. I'm a horrible narrator. I should be put in the narrator's punishment room.
Narrator jail. No,
everyone does.
a few people to narrator jail, and that's when they've been very rude, as everybody saw on Facebook the other day. That person got put in narrator jail.
Our mouths are still hanging open. Cue the 800 narrators that, and I wanted to do it too. The first reaction is, oh my God, make it clear you would never do that.
It was, it was so funny, it's just one of those things where I was like, well, I'm just going to keep responding to see how far he doesn't understand. I will give you the information if we have a project to collaborate. It was laughable. It was funny. And, those sorts of situations are, maybe twice a year something like that happens. And I post things like that whenever I post anything about like that is audiobook related. Maybe somebody didn't read their word list and they have now 9,000 corrections and have made everybody have a really hard day or whatever it is. Whenever I post anything on Facebook in that vein, it's because I'm not connected with the person on Facebook. I don't like, I would never put anybody like directly on blast like that. It is wildly unprofessional. And so if there's a problematic book and I'm connected with that person on Facebook, I don't post about it because I don't need them feeling any worse than whatever's happening in our email chain about said book, or say I might, I fucked something up and I didn't send somebody their research or whatever it is. And it's very, but it's also, I like to use those very comedic moments to be like, this is an extreme, but don't do this, please.
And we're all insecure about, and I know we are, because I think I'm a very emotionally, I'm very, what's the word? Emotionally equipped or whatever person. I'm very, very good at reading the signals and getting it right. I can play a party like no one. I can rock up at anything. And, I'll have a headache for a week and like feel horrible afterwards. But reaching out to publishers can just be nerve-wracking because you care so much. And especially those of us, well, not especially, those of us that were actors always have that fear in our head. Am I overacting? Am I going to get a bad review? Those of us that weren't actors, from what I hear, have the fear that they're not actors.
Yeah, they're underselling it or something. Yeah.
The whole world's going to see it.
All I have to say about that is that I am very, thank you, little sweet baby Jesus, for me being on this side of the microphone and not your guys' side, because I do not have it. I don't have the skill set in me to make those sorts of calls, to do those sorts of cold call emailing, to put yourself, it is commendable how well all of you put yourselves out there into the narration world. And I know that like I couldn't do it. There's a reason why I am a producer and not an actor. There's a, it is not a comfortable place. I mean, I used to do like volunteer for like, political calls and cold calling people and be like,
oh God, I could not do that. Oh my God,
and I did it for like a week, and I was like, I will give me like, is there a text message thing that I like, a blurb I can send? I can text, but I get very, very nervous.
Yell at you? Did people yell at you?
I had one man that yelled at me a lot about it, but I didn't respond. Yeah, and emails are fine for me, and Zoom calls are totally fine, but making phone calls is weird, like weird in my brain. I will do everything I can to avoid making an actual phone call.
See, producers, Rebecca didn't say question, but I'm thinking she meant questions. Don't producers have to send even more emails though? But those are emails. You don't have a problem with emails, do you?
Yeah, no, I can email all day long, but if I have to make a phone call, I will dread it all week. I will find, when is the last possible moment I can make this phone call? And then I need to recover for like a couple of hours afterwards.
It was the call before the call. We were talking, and I do think that I start with a question about what were you like when you were 10, but the people in this audience know it feels like my 10-year-old is hanging out with your 10-year-old, is hanging out with these guys 10 years old, because if you think about when they're that age, you just make friends with whoever. That weird son of your parents' college roommate comes over and like you would never talk to him in school, but like, oh, well, let's go play.
Right,
You know,
right.
or daughter or whatever. I don't mean anything weird, but you know what I
No,
mean?
no, no.
You
Yeah, yeah.
just become friends
Yeah.
because they happen to be in the vicinity and you become friends.
Hmm.
And I love that. I think that's what narrators are like.
Yes. This community has, being in the audiobook community is just, I say it all the time and I feel like it's saccharine and sickly sweet, but it is a blessing. This community, the people in it, the people from, you know, the engineers to the narrators to the producers to everybody that works on any given project. I mean,
And
at Blackstone,
there's no one bad, is there? I can't think of
yeah.
anyone bad.
And I think that when there is some impolite or uncouth behavior, people are very quick to both be like, so you did this thing and it's all right that you did this thing, but maybe let's not do this thing. And everybody is so generous with their knowledge and so generous with their time. And I think that this community is it's just a reflection of all of the people that are part of it. And I cannot, you know, I sit here sometimes and I think like, if I didn't work in audiobooks, what would I be doing? And I have no idea. I cannot think of another career that is as gratifying as the one that I've found in the audiobook community.
Well, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they're very good. They're very good at the business thing. And it is sound business to diversify and have other, I am a complete 100% workaholic. I wake up and check my email at 3 a.m. So yes. Have I thought of what career I would have? If the conversation was surrounding our favorite subject, AI, and how, you know, have you thought of what you would do? I'll deal with it if it happens. I'll deal with it. Even when you're in a corporate job, you're not safe. It could change tomorrow. But I want to be the best. And I think, I always say this, when I became freelance, I was terrified. Like, but what will I do for mortgage in I don't understand. What do I do in 3 months? And it wasn't, the answer wasn't, I thought that suddenly in 3 months I'd have a business model and the money would be coming in and I'd have stability. I did all the goal sheets and books and courses and spent a fortune on them. And then I realized it's who will I be in 3 months? Because that person will have connections and know who they are and other talents, and they'll do what Jesse did and follow what they love, and something wonderful will happen. You have to have a little faith, don't you? You can't just...
Absolutely. My husband and I are embarking on a wild adventure. As you can see behind me on the wall, there's all these little squares. That's his artwork. He just, in the past 6 months, was like, I want to do art. I want to learn how to make this art. And so he's been painting. It's with spray paint. He does these incredible galaxy scenes with spray paint, and he, in tandem with that, has been struggling with his job. He's works at this hot tub sales place. He's a hot tub salesman. He's their lead salesman. He's been doing it for years, but he's just not. He doesn't have any joy in it. And I'm like, I was just like, so stop doing that. Sell art to make it work. Like,
remember this timestamp in case you want to edit this bit out, in case he's boss.
No. I'm not connected with it. They already know he's, but he, you know, he's wrapping up working there at the end of this month, and he is going to see what life as an artist is like. And
so he's taken the leap.
I'm just like, we'll make it work. You know, we are lucky enough to be in a financially stable enough place where we just tighten things up a bit. You know, we live slightly less frivolously, but that means that you get the mental health that you want and you get to pursue this thing that you've always wanted to do it. And he was like, but what about having a job? I was like,
yeah, and that's, you don't know what it's going to look like, but the trick about it is that I don't care how many people hate the saying, do what you love and the money will follow. I know people hate that saying, but the thing is, it's who you become when you're doing what you love. And I thought that it's not a coincidence that everyone that does this job keeps saying, oh, it's the best job in the world, right? It's not that it's the best job in the world. It's that you're staring down the barrel of what you've always been afraid of, what we're all afraid of, doing what you really love and want, right? And taking that leap, right? And that, it's like the people that say you make it, you know, you're lucky because you've taken the steps to put yourself in a position to be lucky. It's the best job in the world because you've become the best person that's been brave and just, so your husband is backing himself. So that's going to, and then the other thing is you assume, the other, I think it's a myth, is the starving artist thing. It's hard, but it's only hard until you start changing as a person.
Right.
I was shocked. I'm not saying I'm rich or anything, obviously, but I assumed that I was going to be like terrified of paying my mortgage every month for the rest of my life. And then like last year, they wanted tax from me. And I'm like, wait, I don't understand. This is like 6 times more than I'm supposed to pay. And they said, but you've made more. I'm like, no, I haven't. I looked at the numbers like,
that's who.
Where did that come from? I didn't even know I was making it. Shows how good I am with my books. That's another thing I need to add. But you become a different person
when you trust yourself, and it's that self-confidence thing, and it's also like having peace with things being messy. For a really long time, just to kind of get from A to B, I had to have a really like, I have to do this and then this and then this and then this. If my house isn't like this, if my house isn't like this, it's like my crazy brain would start to kind of kick off, and I am just reveling in the mess. Like the sink is full of dirty dishes. There's laundry on the couch behind me. The dogs are covered in mud half the time. Like, who the fuck cares, really? Pardon my French, but like, it doesn't matter to anybody but me. And so long as I am internalizing my own motivations and my own confidence in the facts, in what does and doesn't matter. Does it matter that I have the dishes done? I mean, if it's going to bug me all day that the dishes aren't done, sure, but it's not like there's no moral value associated with having the dishes done. And having gained that confidence, and I think my husband sort of is picking up on it and understanding that he can have it too in his art, and because he is good at this, and it's good. I am surprised all the time. He's like, I've made this new creation. It's like, how did you do that? Where did that come from? You know, and it's and
that the joy in that. It's what Michael Kostroff says when you get a book. And I did this literally, the simplest statement. And until he said it, I hadn't figured it out. And this was like a month ago. So 6 years it took me. He said, you sit in the book that you have, or the job that you have. He talks to actors most of the time. You sit in the book that you have. You get a book, you book a book, celebrate it, and sit in the book you have. Whereas I would like, the better the book, you know, I'd get like this amazing thriller, and I would be like more stressed because I wanted to do well, and fit it
up in your head about it.
Yeah, the thought, it's just celebrating and sitting in this exciting moment of like, he gets to do what he wants to do. Ironically, though, the mess thing, we thought we were outsmarting. We thought this time we'll get a dog because our last bird, we missed it. But because part of it was the mess, you have no idea. I've got, my living room is covered with toys. He's only this big. I give up.
No, I'm just okay with the chaos at this point. Our backyard is just, it's insane. The dogs keep taking all their toys out there and then ripping them apart. The birds can pick up all the fluff for their nests. Like, it's just, and it's not even that I don't care, because I do care, but it's just a reorganization of priorities. And one of the things about where I am in my life is that what gets priority is peace, and what gets priority is security, and what gets priority is putting down work and stepping away, because I am a deep workaholic. I mean, it's nonstop. And part of that is just sort of the nature of the job that I do, and having to work at times across all time zones, as I'm sure some of you are familiar with.
But what about different work? I wonder if this would work, because I was beating myself up I took 2 days off. And so I was good until 3 hours into the first day, and I started really freaking out. So I did a 5-book box set and then wrapped it up for public domain. And I was the most joyful 2 days. And I was thinking, maybe instead of trying to like take time off, I could like do 1 day a week and make it a movie day and pick like an 80s theme or a Marilyn Monroe theme, and, you know, a movie day, and have popcorn and plan a lot of exciting things to do. That way you're not telling yourself to not do something, you're telling yourself to do something else. Do you think that would work?
Yeah, I don't have hobbies. Turns out I don't have hobbies, which is a fun thing to learn as a almost 36-year-old woman. So I've started tumbling rocks, which is a slow hobby. And,
what do you mean tumbling rocks?
I got a rock tumbler, and they live in my bathroom, and they're tumbling and they're polishing, and eventually I'm going to try to make stone jewelry with the polished rocks.
So tumbling them polishes them. Do you put like a wax in them or something?
No, it's just there's different stages of grit that you add to the tumbler with water and the rocks, and it smooths them over like as natural erosion would, but it speeds up the process. And at the end of the final polish stage, you have perfectly shiny rocks that don't need like actual polish on them. But
and you can make jewelry.
Yeah, jewelry, or just there are just piles of rocks around our house hanging out. That's what I've just been putting them in clumps places. You
can make a lot of jewelry, and you could sell it, and you could open up a shop. You could brand it, you could do videos. If you need videos, I know a guy.
Yes, and leaning into learning a new skill has been a big help for turning off my work brain. And a lot of my own workaholism came from a place of like not feeling like I was going to be worth anything if I wasn't dedicating my entire life to working all the time. And it's an extension of that, finding peace and worth out in myself outside of who I am and what I do, but what I like to do in my free time. And I spend a lot of time, I consume a lot of media. I am an old film buff. I love watching old movies, and I find, I have shows that are my comfort shows. I have movies that are my comfort movie series. And I schedule a lot of not time to where I don't let myself work. I leave my computer off. I leave my phone like in a different room, and I'm really working on just like being present while watching Lord of the Rings for the umpteenth time.
Because you don't get the feeling if your mind is like, do you know what? It's funny you say that, because I plan my life for future Daniela. Future Daniela doesn't need her TV fix and everything. So I plan my life for future Daniela. Right. And then I run out of hours in the day, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I've just logged off the computer working. Right. And I want to watch Netflix, and I want to watch my old series anyway. So future Daniela stays up till 3 a.m., 4 in the morning, and then wonders why she doesn't want to get up first thing in the morning and exercise. Yeah. So it's like, if you plan the time, and I know Phil said you need real time out, and I do know that. I know your brain needs complete space. My brain does not like it. I've tried really hard. I even tried meditating, and I literally almost murdered someone. I was so aggravated by it. I don't know if I'm capable. I don't know at what age you can change. Yeah,
I am not I'm a busy brain, and left to its own devices, my brain will run rampant through every terrible possibility that could happen, has happened, or will ever happen in anybody's life. That it's just what it does. It taps into an anxious pocket of where it wants to live, and I've been giving that voice less power. When I find myself getting stir crazy in my own brain, I'll try to do free writing just to like get all my thoughts out, or I have long arguments with myself about what we should be focusing on and what we shouldn't be focusing on. And I talk a lot about the story that my brain is telling me right now, because that story is not often the most accurate story. But it's hard. It's really hard to get out of that cycle of work until you cannot work anymore, and then you want to decompress as hard as possible, but then coming out of that decompression means that productive hours get zapped also. So it's been hard, but it's been this having this pandemic kind of forced me to not busy myself. And it was very, very hard, but it's gotten easier. It's gotten easier to just.
How did it force you? See, me, it made me a crazy person. Do you know how many dance videos and language videos and things I could be learning and doing and baking and cleaning and have the perfect life and planning and scheduling and Zoom calls? And how has it made it easier for you? Because it's like made me certifiable.
Well, I pre-pandemic, you know, my friends and I would go out a lot. If I didn't have Willow, I'd usually have like after work plans almost every day of the week. And even if it was just something as simple as going to a friend's house to have a glass of wine or whatever it is. But having that taken away and having everything shut down, and exhausting my options of what I do want to watch for new things. It just allowed some space in my brain to think about, why am I reacting to things with such anxiety, and what is the catalyst, and where does that come from? And it's because of when you were a kid, this is what, you know, you had to do all of this, and you had to, you know, your music instructor was this way, and he made you really neurotic about being on time for fucking everything. And it's helped know that about myself and where all those impulses come from, so that I can, when I'm feeling an impulse to be anxious or I'm feeling the impulse to overwork, I can say, no, be rational. What did you do today? Look at all the things that you did today. You are allowed to relax. You are allowed to take time for yourself. And there are days where I will say all that to my brain, and my brain says, no, we're going to work anyway. And then I just stop stressing about it. And I know that nothing will solve the problem unless I just sit here and work and work and work and work. So I do that. And then I drink a bottle of wine and go to bed.
and there's a difference. This is astounding to me, and I still can't figure it out. There's a difference between saying, I'm going to have a day off. This is an allocated day off. And completely collapsing from burnout, and you just cannot face it, and this is a day off. Those 2 days are completely different. And the day that is allocated, I hate to admit this because I'm so bad at it, but that's when epiphanies come to you. All your brain needs is it's like Phil said. You are right, Phil. I know you're right. It's when your brain has a space, things can enter it. Whereas instead of, but I'm curious, because you have to get feedback, because we all love you. So they all love you. I mean, they love you, the chat, I see the responses to your posts, and that's all positive feedback. You've helped us. You're there for us. You're amazing. You're good at what you do. You get feedback with your work because you're good at your job, and you know, and you back good books. You put the energy in this and the power behind it. But do you, because I think I might do this, and I'm curious as to if you do this, do you take that feedback as, I'm fine, I'm doing really well just as I am? Or do you take it as, that's because I worked hard, I'm going to work harder and keep the feedback going? I've got to keep working.
Honestly, I usually take it as, nope, certainly you mean somebody else, not me. It was everybody else.
Do you really, at this point?
I have such a hard time. I saw a GIF the other day. It was this little cartoon woman who, it was like, usually me when I get a compliment, and it's just this like awkward, like, and it's funny because like rational Jessie brain knows that I'm competent and appreciates the positive feedback that I get very much. I am grateful for it, and it helps kind of guide how and how not to pick certain projects to work on or whatever it is. But most of the time I feel like, that's that duck metaphor, like I'm floating really well on the surface and paddling like bananas below. Just because I know that I put out a pretty confident front, but I always second guess myself. I always, was that the right choice? Did I make the right producing choice? Did I make the right directorial choice? Am I the right person for this?
And
Do I
that's
even
your
know what I'm
crack.
talking about?
That's
Why do
your
people
crack.
even,
That's your crack in your, was it a Chinese cup?
the
That's your crack.
yeah.
That's what everyone loves about you, is that's
Well,
us. That's all of
yeah.
us. And we
And
sense that, and you sense that. So your 10-year-old has shown our 10-year-olds your crack.
And I'm fine with, I know I used to be, I know that a lot of other producers are pretty reserved, and that's their own prerogative. Everybody can be as they want to do, right? But I can't just put on my producer hat and be like, yes, can I answer your questions?
No, I'm sitting
really
here going, I thought I was emotionally intelligent. I never clocked that any of them were reserved. Maybe I should have noticed that and backed off a little.
Oh no, I just, I think that it's just everybody has their own personality, and I think that my personality as a producer is probably a little bigger than others, but a lot of that is just because nerves happen and I get loud.
But it's not that. See, I don't see that. I see it as you care.
I do.
This cannot be easy in your position, and you give out energy that helps us. It's a tangible thing. That
I'm glad to hear that.
2-line email saying I was just going to reach out to you is everything for a narrator that's having a bad day, and we all have them.
I'm so glad. I try to walk through my own life with the acknowledgement that everybody else around me could be having a really, really terrible day. So why not try to infuse whatever joy I have into other people, into my interactions, just because it's, as you said earlier, helping people makes you feel better. And for a long time, I struggled with like, do I only help people because I want to feel better about myself? And I've realized that's not it. I really do enjoy this collaborative effort. And I really, there's no sense in, somebody comes to me and it's like, oh my gosh, I just lost 3 days worth of work. I'm going to be behind on it. Whatever the situation is, somebody's behind on a due date and they're just freaking out about it. That doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do the performance that they then have to re-perform any good. It doesn't do me any good to get tied up in knots about a little bit of a delay. Everything has there's a structure for life in our systems. So I've never understood why people are intimidated to talk to me about, that kind of thing, because generally speaking, I'm pretty open and like able to make things work. But if I can take that worry away from the person that's coming to me with bad news, whatever it is, and reassure them that, okay, that is bad news, but look, it's not the end of the world, and here's how we're going to fix it.
And it's good it happened, because you will now never ever, I had last week, I'll say this, the first day on a book, 90 minutes, I recorded one day. So, 90 finished minutes, and there was one word in that book. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it wrong because I'm incapable of getting it right. It's pequeño zarigüeya or something. It's a Spanish word. And I had it up and I listened to it all 50 times in that 90 minutes. And luckily I had a buffer, because I've learned my lesson. Make sure you always have a buffer, because it bugged me that I wasn't getting it quite right. I went back and listened, and I pronounced it differently 50 times. Not one of them was the same as any of the others. So I redid that day of recording with the buffer.
Yeah.
Every time you make a mistake, it's the only time I've ever had to do that, but I know now, you know what I mean? I know now.
Yeah.
I literally have to look it up every single minute. I cannot get the word right. I'm incapable. But you learn and be honest and straightforward, and
Yeah, and that's
you're not going to
that was
die.
anything
Nobody's
you can ask of
dying.
what was that?
Nobody's dying. It's
Yeah, and the only thing that you can do is, like I know that we're human. Everybody as part of the process is a human being, and Apollo wants to go outside. And there's the great thing about this industry is the humanity that is embodied in it.
Yeah.
And I try to be an extension of that.
Well, you succeed admirably. Now, you're not going to get off this easy. We've got the final question, but we do have a quirky question here for you. Lisa's shot her favorite one here at you. Who is your favorite superhero or book character, and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. My favorite superhero is probably Nightcrawler from the X-Men universe. And my favorite character from a book is Lyra Belacqua, or Lyra Silvertongue from his Dark Materials.
You know what? I've never read that. I really need to, because like everyone.
Pick up the trilogy, treat yourself to a weekend of reading. It is one of the best things I've ever read.
Okay, I will definitely check that out. Okay, so here's my question now. Okay, is Kim there? Kim? I don't know if she is there. I think we might have lost her. I cannot. Oh, thank you. Okay, I've been avoiding this question because there's one word, much like the book I'm doing now, that I cannot seem to remember. But you know, in school, when they dig a hole and they bury the time capsules.
Yes.
Right, capsule. For some reason, my mind goes blank. Yes. And they put something interesting for future generations. You're going to open it up in 20 years. You're going to find like something that represents that time. So for the people that are watching this YouTube call in 60 years, what would you like them to walk away with? What would you leave in the time capsule? That a famous last words, something you want to be remembered for, a funny joke, anything. But what would you want to leave the people watching this call on YouTube in 60 years?
That's an interesting question. My dog has opinions on the matter. Apollo, hush, please. I don't know. I have always, I've just, I would probably leave my dad's piece of advice. Luck is the residue of design. I think it kind of covers so many walks of life, so many different, it can be applied to anything. And it's my favorite little gem of a saying.
I think we found the title of the title of the video. That's
there we go. There we go. But yeah, I mean, if it was something to represent who I am as a person, it would probably be some, I don't know, weird little dinosaur guy. But
now, see, I think that would make people very happy opening that capsule up. So will you please wish your husband the very best for it? That's so exciting. It doesn't feel exciting.
Website up. I'll put it on Facebook. You can all go see his space art.
We can link his website in the about section of the video.
He doesn't have it yet. He's still working through all of the stages of how.
When he gets it, shoot it to me and I'll add it. It'll take 2 seconds because, as I said, people will be watching this years from now. They'll see the artwork and they'll want to go get it.
Perfect.
It's scary and it's exciting starting something like that. He's backing himself.
I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. It'll be magical. You know, that energy, you doing what you love, him doing what he loves, it'll be magical.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be, we were talking last night and he was just sort of running through worries and I mean, the same sort of conversation we've had in the past couple of months. And I was sort of like, I'm excited. It's exciting. It's invigorating being part of the next step of our lives. And because we've been kind of in this place that we've been in for so long, it's a great place to be in. I've got no complaints, but it's,
no, but these are the moments we're alive. We're the most alive.
Yeah, it's great. And it's, I'm proud of him and I'm happy that he gets to finally pursue something that he really loves to do because I get to do on a daily basis what I love to do. And we're just very well designed, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And what a great example for the little girl.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching people doing what they love.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to show love for on all, work relationships, in relationship to, social issues. We try to lead with love. So
I love that. I do. This has been, I will not be messaging anyone tonight saying, oh my God, did I say something wrong?
Good.
This was just a lovely feel-good call. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us. I've had so much fun.
Me. This was so great. It was nice to just chat with you all, and great questions, and thank you for making me feel so comfortable, and yeah, thank you.
It's fabulous. It was a pure joy. You are a fabulous guest. I shall be chasing you again sometime, begging you to come back.
Please
and then
do.
your husband's business will be up and going, and we can hear all the exciting news.
That sounds great. Please do.
Thanks. Bye, Jessie. Bye, everyone. I love you. Bye, guys. Bye. Bye.